Hello everyone, welcome to KUDO Pro Interview Initiative. My name is Otto Mendonça. I am interpreter liaison at KUDO, so I'm part of the Language Services Department. And my goal here is to strengthen the bonds with our interpreting community by sharing knowledge with all of you KUDO Pro interpreters, not only KUDO Pro interpreters, but our interpreting community as a whole. So today we have a very special guest. We are touring the APAC region, as you may have already noticed, and we have a very special guest from Southeastern Asia. And she will be addressing some very interesting questions concerning languages and the situation, the framework of conference interpretation in that corner of the world. All right, so if you're not a KUDO Pro yet, because here we interview KUDO Pro interpreters. So if you're not a KUDO Pro yet, just review the requirements, the eligibility requirements below this video. There will be a link, and we are waiting for you on the other side to join the KUDO world. All right, so without further ado, let's turn it over to our guest. She will introduce herself, and we take it from there. So hello, Cho, how are you?
I'm fine, thank you. And
who are you, after all? Who are you?
Well, after all, I am an interpreter, and I'm a Burmese interpreter. I can probably say that. Yeah. And I am based in Myanmar, and it is a country in Asia, and is in Southeast Asia. And Myanmar was formerly called as Burma. So many people in the Western community know Myanmar as Burma. So that's where I come from. And my mother tongue is Burmese, and I can speak about 3 languages: Burmese, English, and Chinese. And I can read Arabic because I am a Muslim and I have to read the Quran. And then I got an MA degree in English language, English literature, and that was back in 2014. And I was doing my MA Part 2 course, and at that time I had an opportunity to participate in a very huge event, the Ayeyarwady Literary Festival, as a volunteer, and I had to take the responsibility for doing the simultaneous interpretation with other colleagues. So that was the very first time that I broke into this career. And
wow.
Yeah.
That's great. That's great. Thank you for sharing that. So it's so Cho Lwin Phu, yes. You are a KUDO Pro interpreter at KUDO. How long have you been a KUDO Pro interpreter, and how has your journey on KUDO and since the pandemic broke, how has it been for you?
Yes, I have been a KUDO Pro. I have been a KUDO interpreter for more than 1 year, and I have become a pro for like not long after I became a KUDO interpreter. I applied for a KUDO Pro, and I got and I was assessed, and I was eligible, and I got it. And so far, my experience with KUDO is the best, is one of the best, experiences, because as we all know, the COVID-19 had changed our way. We are now living in the new normal, and also here in Myanmar, we had to switch to the virtual world. And so instead of the on-site meetings, we had to dive into the world of remote interpretation assignments. So with the help of KUDO, and I can learn to take control of my work, like using a proper headset and a stable internet and other things. And yes, and one thing I like about KUDO is that they treat us, the interpreters, as one of them, and I mean, we are not different from the KUDO team. We are one. So that's the main thing that I like about KUDO.
That's great to hear that, because we really have the best interests of interpreters in mind, because we have all been there, done that, right? We're all interpreters as well. So we know how it works. And it's very interesting, something that you said at the beginning that caught my
Yes.
attention, because Myanmar was previously called Burma, and it stayed in the name of the language, right? So we say Burmese,
Yes.
the Burmese language, which is
Yes. Yes.
very interesting. And could you maybe give us an overview of the language landscape in your country? I mean, the different languages, the official languages, and the most required languages for interpretation.
Yes. And for Myanmar, or Burma, as you said, and for Myanmar, we have like 8 national races, and we, the Burmans, are the have the largest population, and there are like 7 ethnic peoples, and they are Kachin, Gaya, Gayin, Chin, Mon, Rakhine, Shan. So each ethnic people have their own languages, and each of their language has its own dialects. So it's quite complicated. But Burmese is the official language in Myanmar, and mostly we the Burmese people don't understand when the ethnic people talk in their native language, but almost all ethnic people, they understand Burmese, as it is the official language here. And yes, so that is how it works. I think it's answered your questions.
Yeah, so there are 7 different ethnicities in Myanmar.
Yes.
Each one has its own language, but then there are dialects, there are variants.
Yeah.
And then Burmese is like the national language, that the one language that everyone understands, not necessarily speaks. Is that correct?
Yes.
Wow.
Yes, and that's great.
Wow, that's great. And you are a Burmese interpreter.
Yes, I am. And
that's great.
Yeah. So, and one thing that I like to add is that we have our own sign language system. We have it is of national standard, and I'm not quite familiar with the sign language, but I am proud of it because we have our own system.
That's great. Congratulations. And in addition to that, to Burmese, English, and you also work with Chinese, right? That's
Yes.
what I heard. So
Yes.
is there a lot of assignments from Chinese? You work from Chinese into Burmese and from Burmese into Chinese too, or just into Burmese?
English and Burmese are the only working languages. Yes, because for Chinese, I use it to communicate with my friends. And when I do, like, for example, we have a shop, and when the Chinese people come and, buy stuff, I talk to them in Chinese. So it's just for social dealings, not for my professional life.
I see. So you could use it as a language C in our lingo, yes. Right? In our jargon. That's great. So it's a language you can understand, you can hear from, you can interpret from, but not into. That's great. And also Arabic, you were telling me, right, off record, that you know quite a lot of languages. So language is something that attracts you, right?
Yes, and I think I have a talent in learning languages because I used to because I learned Thai language back in 2013, and I was able to speak quite a lot. I mean, if compared to other students, within only 1 month. So, and the accent is also similar to those of the Thai people. So you could say that I have a talent, or that's what I assume.
That's great. So you have a talent, and you also have a good experiences that give you self-confidence. So that's important,
Yes.
right? to keep on going. And how do you assess, Cho, going forward? Right, so
Yes.
we're still in the pandemic, and going forward, now we have our profession has gone through a major paradigm shift, right, with the advent of remote interpreting in general. So how do you see our profession going forward?
Yes, and for that part, I can say it like into categories, like the international one and the one here in Myanmar. For the international, I think that this kind of conference interpretation, which is done remotely, can become more popular, and I think it can also have a great impact on the Burmese language interpreters, because we have to keep up to date, and we have to be in the mainstream. So I think as this, we don't. I mean, no one knows when this pandemic will end, so we have to live our life in a new way. And at first, I mean, in Myanmar, we only did simultaneous and consecutive interpretation assignments on site. Because I had never done any remote interpretation assignments before the pandemic started. So that's changing internationally, but in the future, I think for interpreters like us who have some contacts overseas and who work for interpretation agencies like yours, we will need to keep up to date with the latest technology, and we have to be. I think we will be in this virtual assignments. And it will go on. But for other interpreters in Myanmar, I think when the COVID-19 has ended, and it has ended, I think there will be many consecutive assignments like in the old days.
I see. Okay, thank you for sharing that. And
yes,
we are very proud at KUDO of being able to take the lead in the remote interpreting world, and help people from all over the world to keep on going, keep on working, keep on sharing, and helping lending their voices to different people and building bridges, right? Building communication bridges. So that's our mission, right? After all, removing language barriers. And our goal here concerning the interpreting community is to bring all of us together around this idea of removing language barriers. So it's a great opportunity to have had you here in the KUDO Pro interview. I thank you a lot, Cho, for your availability, your kindness to share the linguistic knowledge concerning Myanmar, the conference interpretation situation. Is there a final message you would like to give to our viewers?
Yes, I'd like to give one message to my fellow interpreters in Myanmar, is that I would like to encourage them to be upgraded, in their career. It's not that we have to be available only on the local market. We can broaden our horizons, and we can be much more than who we really are at the moment. So I think they should learn about the technology, and they should have the right equipment, the right environment and workplace, and I'd like to encourage them to invest on their career financially, because for me right now, I had to redecorate a room at home to use as workplace, and then I have to buy a great computer and all sorts of equipment. So that's a huge investment for us. So one final message is that never fear changes, because the world is changing and we have to keep up with it. And now I'm in this remote interpreting world.
That's great, Cho. Thank you very much for your message.
Yes, thank you.
Invest in yourself and never stop growing. Keep growing.
Yes.
Okay. So thank you very much, Cho. We appreciate all your sharing here with us. Thank you very much, viewers. Stay tuned for the next KUDO Pro Interview initiative. If you're not a KUDO Pro yet, take a look below and apply it now. See you soon. Bye.
Bye-bye.